Welcome, everyone, to Hands on Politics here in 2026. Ken, it's great to see you. You know, we're a couple of brothers from the Bronx. We're trying to make politics understandable for everybody, and we do not apologize for being patriots of this great country. And we are always willing to listen to reasonable people that want to, you know, bring in another point of view. We change our views according to circumstances, but we have definite principles, and that's what this show is all about. And I am so looking forward this year, Ken, to 2026. I think a lot of stuff is happening, but first off, how were your holidays and New Year? And it's good to be back.
It is great to be back. My Christmas and my New Year's were absolutely great. Cameron and Caitlin came in to visit. And so we had my family together, Kelsey, Cameron, Caitlin, and of course, Sherry. Again, they came in for Christmas. Then after Christmas, we had Christy and her husband, Mike, and a couple of their grandchildren came in. And so we did a lot. We had a lot of fun. We did a little bowling, did a little roller skating, which I hadn't done in years and years and years. But, you know, Cameron and I like to go back and forth, like when it comes to skiing. He's like, Dad, you can't ski. I was like, I'm the great skier. And so we go to Colorado, and I'm a good skier. I used to be much better. And roller skating, he's like, you can't roller skate. And I'm like, I used to roller skate. But I got to tell you, when I got out there, I'm like, you know, really nervous. But within a couple of hours, I was getting around.
When I saw you with the four wheels on, I was like, oh my God, you really need to get rollerblades, because I used to do the four-wheel, and the four-wheel is definitely different than the rollerblade, which is much more like ice skating. And I'll tell you, Ken, if you throw the rollerblades on, it's a much easier experience. You wouldn't spend as much time on the floor getting picked up by the lady referee there.
Hey, that was one time. I fell one time. Maybe next time I'll try the inlines, but I'm more comfortable with the other roller skates, kind of like with the training wheels on. But anyway, but we had a great time, absolutely great time. But I really missed Hands on Politics, and we have a lot to talk about. So I'm really glad to be back. But I'm sorry, how were your holidays?
Great. We spent the month of December in Colorado, as some of you who have watched the previous podcast know. It was actually unseasonably warm. It was in the 60s the whole time. It was beautiful. And then we took off to go to Minneapolis to see the kids, and we got stuck in a blizzard that I have never, ever in my life been involved in, where the visibility was zero. We got stuck in Iowa, just south of the Minnesota border, for 2 days. Fortunately, we got a hotel with some of the nicest people in Iowa. It was a wonderful experience, actually, for being a crappy experience from a driving perspective. It turned out to be, you know, the people of Iowa were just wonderful, especially this hotel. It was a Wyndham property, America Inn or something, and it was just, you know, as good as a bad experience can be, it was fabulous. But then we got to see the kids, spent time with Emily and Taylor, and that was wonderful. But it was not 60 degrees in Minneapolis. It was more like a wind chill of 66 below. But there were a couple of days where it was in the 20s. So it felt very balmy to be in the 20s in Minneapolis. But you know, it was nice to see the family, and then we had an uneventful ride home, you know, 18 hours from Minneapolis with the girls in the back, the dogs. And so it was we're back in New York, and it's snowing outside, typical, no sun. So I'm looking forward to today's show, Ken. So much has happened, as you suggest, and I would love to start because I was driving during the Mamdani acceptance speech, and my hair was on fire, and I was like, oh my God, our founders would be rolling over in their graves to see that this person was elected to our largest city in the country. it was so depressing to listen to, and listen to the people cheering for this kind of communism was really, really disheartening. And Ken, what are your thoughts? Did you listen at all to the Mamdani speech?
I actually didn't listen to it, but I did read through it. And Rich, I do have a clip from his speech.
Yeah, why don't we play the clip, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Here we go.
We will deliver universal child care for the many by taxing the wealthiest few. Those in rent-stabilized homes will no longer dread the latest rent hike, because we will freeze the rent. Getting on a bus without worrying about a fare hike or whether you'll be able to get to your destination on time will no longer be deemed a small miracle, because we will make those buses fast and free.
Yeah, Ken, you took an interesting part of that. They tax the rich, price controls, all communist thoughts. One thing that he said that really the biggest thing that got my goat when he was speaking was, he said, we will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Oh my God, when I heard that, it was really deflating.
Yes.
But if you listen to the crowd, they're cheering on this nonsense that has never worked, and it turns into mass murder of people who do not want to comply, because it goes against every individual instinct that human beings have. But Ken, Mamdani's already broken the promises. The buses went up to $3 the other day. So
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
So, and the MTA says that they're not doing free buses. So he's already got a fight on his hands. So what are your thoughts on that display of communism?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do think it's important to remember he is a mayor. He fills in potholes. He makes sure that the trains are running on time and the buses are running on time. He's not Secretary of State. He's not the President of the United States. And you might not have realized that if you listen to his speech, because he's talking about everything as if he has some kind of power. But here's some things that I noted. He's a socialist. He's a Muslim. He's from Africa. He's only been a U.S. citizen since 2018. In his speech, he talked about three people. Bernie Sanders, he talked about being his role model, basically. Talked about Bill de Blasio and David Dinkins. These are two of the worst mayors in New York City history, and he's using them as an example. He also talked about the African National Congress. The ANC is a radical political group aligned with communists. And I had in my notes, he hates rugged individuality, which, to your point, that jumped out at me. But Rich, he's a radical socialist who looks up to the worst people that he possibly could look up to. And so thank goodness he is only the mayor, because a guy with this kind of ideology could really make things very bad for a lot of Americans. Him being mayor, he can ruin New York City. He can make crime worse. He can make sewer systems worse. But that is really isolated into New York City. And so that gives me a little bit of comfort that he can't destroy the rest of the country.
Yeah, and who does he think he is to call the president after the Venezuela operation where we extracted Maduro? And we'll talk about that in another segment. But where does he think he comes off with calling the president? I wouldn't have, if I were the president, and I don't know if he talked to him. My guess is Trump talks to everybody. But I would have said, I don't have time for his call. Who filled the potholes, make sure the garbage is picked up, get the buses running on time, pay the bill hills of New York City. You think you're somebody, but you're nobody. You're the mayor of New York City, and that's it. And it's a shame that he's even that. But the arrogance of this guy to think that he's going to have any impact on President Trump when it comes to that. And, Ken, I want to go back. We're often criticized for, oh, you guys are, just Trump, rah, whatever. I criticized Trump when he took the meeting with Mamdani. And a lot of people, a lot of folks that support the president really, very, very strongly, which I'm in that category, but the people they call MAGA that, they say that Trump can do no wrong, is I was saying, why give this guy a platform? I don't agree with it. I still don't agree with it. And that's why I think Mamdani thought he could call the president, because he thinks he has more power than he does. But to your point, Ken, he can't even raise the taxes on the people in New York City without the New York State legislature and the governor agreeing to it. So the man has no power. And I really was frustrated with the president when he took that meeting, and people are saying, oh, he's playing chess. What kind of chess is that? Yeah. You just gave a communist, truly a communist, a platform that he didn't deserve. So for all you people that say that we don't, criticize when necessary, to me, we criticize that, go back, run the tape. We criticized it, and I still don't think it was a good idea. And Mamdani stepping up like that, you gave him a platform, a bigger platform than he truly deserved.
Yeah, I agree. What I think about is the best New York City mayor in my lifetime was Rudy Giuliani. And what do we think about when we think of Rudy Giuliani and what he did to New York City? Graffiti. When I left New York and then I'd come back to visit family, it was shocking, the difference once Giuliani took over. Graffiti was off the trains. Crime was very low. There were police officers all around. The parks were clean. The buses were running on time. The subways were safe. That is what makes a mayor successful. Yep. All this crap that Mamdani is talking about is ridiculous. It's like, are you psychotic? You are a little mayor. It's the biggest city in the United States. Yeah, granted. But you're not doing economic policy. And in fact, like to your point, so many of the things that he claims he's going to do, he cannot do. Free buses, can't do it. Putting rent control on all these houses. Well, try doing that. You're going to have the DOJ from the Trump administration down your throat telling you you can't do that either. And so he talks a real big game, but he can't do any of it. But he's still a problem, Rich. It's still a problem to have somebody talking this kind of nonsense and talking as if he can do it, because there's going to be some people who think he should do it. And socialism is a bad thing. Socialism hurts everybody, from the rich down to the poor, and especially the poor. They come out the worst when it comes to socialism.
Absolutely, Ken. And the other thing that gives him the ability to destroy are the advisors he puts around him. And one of the advisors made some big news recently with her talking about our relationship with private property, that we're going to have to, as white people and some POCs, people of color, are going to have a different relationship with property. Ken, why don't you roll the tape on that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
The reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than.
The arrogance that drips from her, Ken, she is such a typical college educated, I'm sure, sitting in your class of Marxism and sociology or whatever. These are the types of people who are so extremely dangerous to our Constitution and our society. They divide people by using words that in normal context are good, like sharing. We want to share with people. We want to help people. We want people to have opportunities, everybody to have fair opportunities. But what she is saying, if they were in power, and the good news is we have a constitution, we have a DOJ that is going to put a stop to any of this, because it is racial targeting as well as confiscation of property, which we call theft in America. You can't just take people's property away. You just can't tell people that they can't raise the rent on the property that they own. You can't just wave a wand and do what you want to do. We have a constitution in this country, and even in the New York State Constitution, you can't steal people's property. But, these people think they know better than the average person, and that's what makes them so dangerous, because when we say, no, we're not going to do it, what is the next step? Let's just think about what the people like Maduro do. The people, the communist dictators, in the world, what do they do next? They start shooting and killing the people that don't agree with their policies. So this pursuit always ends in the murder of good people, because you know what? Your policies suck and nobody wants them. So let's stop it at the root. This woman is dangerous, Ken.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about it. It's easy to look at her and just say she's an idiot. It's easy not to take her seriously, but she is an advisor to the mayor of the biggest city in the United States. They really are dangerous. And I'll tell you what, Rich, we got a little bit of insight into what people like this do when they get into power. And we saw it during the COVID lockdowns in 2020. During COVID, they destroyed freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion, due process. They shut down free speech. They literally threw the Constitution in the trash. And that's what people like this do. And like you said, they'll first ask you, oh, we need to do this. And then when you don't do it, they have to force you. And when they force you to do things, it really gets ugly, and it leads to things like Cuba, Venezuela, and other totalitarian type of situations. So even though they're fools and they're idiots, we need to take these idiots seriously, and we need to stop them politically as quickly as we possibly can.
They are definitely dangerous, Ken. Good points. And they foment hate and divisiveness. And, it's really scary when you know that people are taking a position not based on principle, but based on contrarianism, right? So for example, Venezuela, we had a bounty on Maduro's head because the guy he's a narco-terrorist. He's been killing people. He's murdered people. He's in bed with China, Russia, and Iran. And I think it was Joe Biden who upped the ante on the bounty to get Maduro. We all agree that Maduro's a bad guy. Trump takes action with our absolutely incredible military who conduct a flawless extraction. And now all of a sudden, all of these people don't like it because it was done by Trump. And that's what these people try to do. This is how you get these regimes in power, is that these people divide people so intensely with such hatred that it's the cut off your nose to spite your face type of mentality, that people vote for people just because they hate someone else, and even if it's not in their interest. And we are finding ourselves more and more in that situation where people are just going against each other because it's done by Donald Trump. Donald Trump brings out the worst in people that just, who you would think would have common sense, they've lived the American dream, but they will find anything wrong with Donald Trump and this Venezuela operation, which I think, let's talk about that a little bit, Ken. This Venezuela operation that was done flawlessly, but now the left is arguing, oh, we shouldn't have gone to get him, even though 3 years ago, they were saying we need to get Maduro. What are your thoughts on that, Ken?
Well, I have a lot of different thoughts on the whole Venezuela thing. First of all, I have to say, Rich, we've said it time and time again on Hands on Politics, that Trump, he goes 24/7, 365 days a year. He is nonstop. He's like a man on a mission. Every day you wake up, he has done something huge, whether it's taking out the Iran nuclear site, whether it's ending a war in Israel. And now this, the guy it's like he's on a mission. He's like, I only have 4 years to do this, and he's going to get everything done. So that's number one. It's just amazing, his energy. But let me say this, because this is one of the conversations Cameron and I had, because there are a lot of people who are concerned about, well, he did this without congressional authority and all that kind of stuff. And let me just say, my preference is always to follow the Constitution, get proper congressional authority when you're going to, get involved in some type of military excursion. That's my preference, all right? And but unfortunately, that is not how we have been doing it in the United States for a long time.
All the way back to Bush.
I'll be the first one to set up a commission and get together with Congress and the executive branch and say, okay, we need to pass some type of a law where we can do what we need to do militarily, but do it consistent with the Constitution. But let's set that aside, because that's not how our country has been run for a long time. You think about Panama in 1989 when we took out Manuel Noriega. You think about Saddam Hussein. You think about Barack Obama going in and taking out Muammar Gaddafi, or Salvador Allende in Chile. We've been doing this for a long time, or even JFK with the Bay of Pigs trying to take out Castro. The fact of the matter is, this is what we do. And if we don't like it, I'm more than happy to do it differently, but we need to change it for the future. But what Trump did was actually a very, very good thing for the Western Hemisphere. I actually put down a list of things that I thought were beneficial from this action. I think, number one, he removes a failed socialist regime, gets rid of a corrupt authoritarian regime, ends human rights abuses, allows Venezuelans to have free and fair elections in the future, undermines drug traffickers, saves human lives, especially American, reduces immigration flow into the United States. A lot of people who came here during the Biden administration came from Venezuela, and a lot of them were the people who were released from jails and prisons. And this is the bigger thing, Rich, and I really want to get your thoughts on this. It undermines China's geopolitical strategy to get a foothold into Latin America. So I think this is overall a very good policy with a lot of good things. And one thing that surprised me was how Venezuelans all around the world love the fact that Maduro has been taken out of power. So
Yeah.
I'll throw it back to you, Rich. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, Ken, I think the biggest strategic value here is the pushback on China. If you think about the oil reserves, Venezuela is the one of the largest in the world, oil sitting under, just like Saudi Arabia. And think about what China doesn't have in China. China does not have the oil reserves that are necessary to fund their expansion and their attempt to oust the United States as the world superpower, the world dominant currency, all those things. What Trump sees is much bigger in the picture of national security. What he sees is when these countries are run by two-bit dictators that have Marxist and communist value systems, who do they align with? They align with China, Russia, and Iran. All three of them have planted seeds in Venezuela because of the oil reserves and because they were welcomed in by Maduro, who is a criminal, corrupt drug dealer. And the country prior to Maduro and Chavez was a very, very successful democracy, and they lived a very high life. It was one of the richest countries in the Western Hemisphere. And now what Trump sees is, it's time. I've seen too much. I know he's got intelligence. He knows where he knows where the Ayatollah Khomeini is. He knew where Maduro was. How do you think they extracted him so quickly?
Yeah.
He knows what Chinese people are in Venezuela. He knows what the Chinese goal is. And he said, just like the Iran nuclear sites, they were getting too close. And he said, goodbye. I already told you. He told Maduro, hey, out or you're going. He did that. And the Chinese put out statements that they're very concerned about our, lack of respect for sovereignty, blah, blah. And yeah, get the hell out. Get right. The hell out. Go back to China. We're done with allowing all of you people to come into our backyard and to steal the oil that our companies put the infrastructure in. The socialist communist regimes stole our capital that was used to extract the oil from Venezuela. The refineries, the oil wells, the shipping, all of that was built by American companies. And they took it for a pittance. They said, no longer are you allowed here. And now Trump has said, which has got the left's hair on fire, we're taking back our oil. And they're like, oh, it's always about oil. And especially when we're the ones who set up the infrastructure. And you know who's going to really benefit from this? Not the billionaires of the oil companies, because they're stop with that silly argument. It's going to be the people of Venezuela that get their piece of that oil coming from their ground back into their economy to help them to rebuild from what the communist socialists have destroyed.
Yeah, you're right. They did not compensate the companies justly. And I think there was even cases brought before the International Court of Justice. And did Venezuela pay the companies like they were supposed to? Absolutely not. They take over this stuff and they take over these industries, nationalize everything. And who benefits? The people who benefit are Hugo Chavez, are Nicolas Maduro, but all the poor people, they're the ones that suffer. There's a mass exodus of the middle class, and that's what we had in Venezuela. And so what Trump did, it's going to help the people. To your point, I didn't want to skip over that. Chuck Schumer, we've seen videos of this, right? Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Chris Van Hollen. There's these videos where they're like, oh, Donald Trump didn't do what he said he would do in Venezuela. And they're criticizing him for it. Now, when he does what they wanted him to do, now they're criticizing him for doing what they wanted him to do. It's all political. And so for anybody who listens to the Democrats, it's absolute nonsense.
And yeah, and it still amazes me, Ken, that there are, good Democrats like the people who Fetterman represents, right? The good people of Pennsylvania, Fetterman at least is honest. It's like, can we just say it was a good thing? They would have a lot more credibility if these people, they spent the night last night with a candlelight vigil on the eve of January 6th. They're still living so far in the past, and they just can't get over that. It's like the one thing they hang on to, and we were sitting there watching it, so I forget what newscast cut to it, and just said, at least they're not singing. And then they cut back again. And they're singing. Yes. And at least they were in key this time. They weren't like some of the ones that we've seen that are just have been absolutely horrible. But I just started laughing when they cut back, and it was like, here they are singing again. And it's like they're lost in the 60s. These people are still living in their bell bottoms and their hip huggers, thinking that they're up against the man, and they're not even thinking about what they're up against. Trump made some comments at the rally that the Republicans were having for the midterms to kind of get on message. And he said, you got to go with your policies, guys. Who the heck believes men should be in women's sports? Come on, you got to use that stuff. Who believes that we should tax people more? We're putting money back in the people's pockets, the big, beautiful bill. When people do their taxes, and I would encourage everybody, as soon as you get your W-2, your 1099, all of your documents, file immediately, because you're going to realize how much extra money you're getting back. Because, Ken, I don't know if you know this, but the withholding didn't keep up with the tax cuts. So people were having money taken out of their paycheck at the former level of taxation, and the taxation level was retroactive. So people have been paying more than they should have. So not only are they getting a tax cut, no tax on tips, Social Security, all that good stuff, overtime, they put more money into the government that they're going to be getting back anywhere from $1,000, $2,000, depending on how much you make, maybe $3,000. You're putting more money in there. Go get it, because your return is going to be bigger than it's ever been. And then your taxes are going down. So your paycheck this year is going to be bigger than it was. Now, one caveat, Ken. You got to look at your federal, and then look to see if these people like Hochul, Newsom are going, Pritzker, are going after you from the state level, and you're not going to see as big a reduction as some people are going to see in Florida and Tennessee, Kentucky, places like that. So keep an eye on that, but you are definitely going to get a big kickback as far as it goes in the beginning of the year. So make sure you file early. But, to the point that, this president is America first, national defense. Venezuela was all about national defense, and he wants the American people to succeed. Mm-hmm. He's not here to help billionaires. Billionaires make money no matter what. So no matter what Trump does, no matter what Biden did, no matter what Democrats or Republicans do, billionaires are billionaires for a reason. It's because they are providing a service or product to the large amount of people, and people are willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So Stop worrying about billionaires. Billionaires aren't impacting your life. And why are you entitled to anything that they create? Go out and create your own wealth and stop being envious. Make a resolution for 2026 and say, I'm going to make my life better by doing X. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to up my skills. I'm going to do whatever. Do you? Who cares what the billionaires are doing? It's not going to impact your life either way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Rich. I totally agree. And we didn't really have this planned, but we're at the beginning of a new year. But it's really interesting if we look back to say, well, what has happened over the last year? And you talked a lot about it, was the taxes. There was changes to taxes that are going to benefit us moving forward. So many things that Trump did in 2025 are going to lead to bigger and better things, especially regarding the economy. Now, I love a lot of what Trump did, from what he did with the border to what he's done with DEI and things like that. But young people who are about the age of our kids, their biggest concern is what's happening in the economy. And I really do think a lot of what Trump has done in 2025 is really going to explode and take off in 2026, so that those young people who are just like, well, I just care about the price of beef, or I care about the price of housing, I think they're going to get what they're looking for also. Because some of the things I was looking for, Trump could do pretty quickly with executive orders and with some legislation changes. But the things that really have long-term benefits, like with the economy, it takes a little bit of time. It takes time unraveling the Biden economy, which was based on government spending. And so getting away from that and establishing really good free market economics, it takes a little while. I think we're going to be there by second quarter, definitely by the middle of the year. I think we're going to see some really explosive growth in GDP. And our biggest concern then is going to be, how do we get the people to do the work we need done?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because right now there are, I forget how many millions of jobs that are open. The Democrats, they talk about unemployment rate and things like that. But there is so many jobs open. And this is where immigration really, really plays a role, because we have not been having the amount of children that we need to sustain the economy. So what does that mean for immigration? Not illegal immigration. We still need to get everybody out who came across that border, running across, and is now on our welfare system. But if there are people that came across that border and want to work hard, you need to get in line, and we need to provide an immigration system that's America first. What jobs are available? And if we don't have Americans to do it, let's bring in skilled workers. Let's bring in whatever, scientists, IT people. But first, make sure that the people who want jobs here are getting jobs here. Let's not use the H-1B visas that the way they have been, which is undermining IT wages, because they've been bringing in so many people from India to take over those jobs, because instead of working for 150,000, they're willing to work for 80,000. So it's one of those things. We need to get an immigration system. But here's the big rub on all this, Ken, and it's so sad to me. We no longer have people in Congress that want America to succeed. We have seen people elected to Congress that want to tear her down. And specifically the Omars and the whole squad, right?
Yeah.
The squad hates our country. They hate the fact that we're so wealthy. They hate the fact that white people have been successful. even though it's the most successful place in the world for every demographic, it's the only place where you have equal opportunity. But I am really distraught about nobody seems to be able to work together on anything, anything that matters. And immigration has been hard in the past. Never mind now with all the Trump derangement syndrome. It's like if Trump says yes, they say no. If Trump says, if Trump cures cancer, they're pro cancer. It's
true.
like, it's just insane. It's like they got to get out of their head, and the normal people like Fetterman need to step up to the plate and start taking charge. And I'm sure there are Democrats in Congress that understand what's happening with these left-wing lunatics. They need to step up to the plate. And I'm afraid that we've become so dysfunctional due to TDS that we won't be able to do that. And I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I honestly don't know where we're going. I think we might have reached the point of irreconcilable differences where we're never going to be able to come together to a large extent because of Trump derangement syndrome. But it's conservative and liberals. We are so diametrically opposed on every single issue. I don't know that there's any way to come together. I'm just thinking about things that Trump has done. The economy. The economy is doing well. It's doing well by using the private sector, and I expect it to continue to do well. GDP is up, inflation's down, unemployment is at a reasonable level. We're having record decreases of crime internationally. There's successes at the international level, including what just happened in Venezuela. So many things, again, immigration, so many things are going well, but liberals are not willing to even concede that these are good things, because it's that they really don't think what you and I think are good things are good things. And so I don't know where this goes to. I think it's going to be ugly for a long time. One of the things that Trump needs to work on, along with the Republicans in Congress, we need to come up with an immigration policy where we slow down the immigration to where people have the ability to assimilate, because we are not assimilating people. We need to come up with an immigration program where we're bringing people in from countries that are at least open to our type of government. We cannot be bringing people here from places where they have warlords, where you kill somebody if they disagree with you.
No, I totally agree with you, Ken, 100%. And even so many of our own citizens that have been born here and are generationally here for many years, we don't do a good job on helping them to understand the value of the Constitution, the individual, and why we are exceptional. Those things have not been taught. You can't assume because people grow up in America that they understand why we are great, what makes us great. And the core principle is the protection of individual liberty. And the tenet that the government works for us. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people, not some group of people that deem themselves the leaders. And people have, for so many years, and we've talked about this many times, Ken, that they turn to the federal government for everything. And the last place you want to turn to get a problem solved is the federal government. That's where all the problems are. Let's just look at Minnesota. Minnesota has now, with the help of Doge, which started to put the spotlight on federal fraud and federal largesse and, just wasteful tax dollars going somewhere. People have been turning to the federal government when things, and you're sitting there going, no, this isn't a federal government issue.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government is supposed to be small. It's supposed to do a couple of things. It's supposed to keep our national security and our interstate commerce on a good playing field to make us successful. The power was in the people, the individual, not the warmth of collectivism. No, collectivism and community, that's all about your church. Go to church for community. If you want to build a community of like-minded people, you go do that. But when it comes to government, it's about the individual. We protect the minority and the individual because the individual is the seed for success. When the individual goes after their dreams and their passions, they create wealth for everyone. When that person dreams of creating a computer program that's going to cure cancer, I'm just making it up as I go.
Yeah.
So, and that person is able to do it and then becomes a billionaire. That's what this country's about, because they can go to school. They don't even have to go to school. They can go to a bank, get funding. They can sell their idea. And then that idea becomes something that they can put into the marketplace. And the marketplace goes, oh my God, I like the idea of, curing cancer. And they create something. It all starts with the individual, whether it's a restaurant, a construction company, you name it. And it starts at the individual pursuing their dreams, not the collective, because the collective can't make a damn decision. Just look at the UN. The UN is that's the epitome of collectivism. They've got terrorists in charge of human rights. That's what collectivism does. Individuals, they focus on, how do I make the market, myself, more prosperous, turns into their family, their community, their nation, and the world, right? It all starts with the individual seed, and we don't teach it enough.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything you said. The problem is that is the exact opposite of what a large percentage of people in the United States believe. In fact, what you just described, there are many people who would say that's a white supremacist idea, like individual freedom, all that kind of stuff. Oh, that's racist. When they hear of the people, by the people, for the people, they interpret that to mean there's 900 billionaires out there in the United States. We need to take their money and give it to all the other people. And that's what it does. Go back to education. We need to educate people the way what you just described there. But I'll tell you what, there are just so many people fighting against what you just said. And that what you're talking about is the basis of our founding. It's how we became such a great country. And what these other people are promoting are things that they promoted in the Soviet Union, in Cuba, in Venezuela, all those places. And they're terrible. All these places where they talk about collectivism, not only do they just do terribly, financially and economically, but they become totalitarian, because going back to our earlier point, when you don't do what a totalitarian wants you to do, they force you to do it. But there's so many people that support this crazy insanity. When I go onto the Hands with Politics Facebook site and I'm just looking at it, it is just page after page after page of take the money from the billionaires and give it to everybody else. And we've talked about it.
Those are Chinese bots. Those are Russian bots. Those are communist bots. And, and because I do respond But to your point, our kids, we're smart enough to understand it. Our kids are being bombarded with this envy that is one of the deadly sins, right? Envy and jealousy is what destroys a nation, not builds a nation. And they are being overwhelmed with this. If we only take the money from billionaires, everything's going to be okay. Ken, I want the question you have to ask is, who decides when somebody creates wealth and they create a business that people want to buy the product from? Who is responsible for saying when enough is enough? Who decides that number? And when you think about it, why would anybody but the person who created the wealth, the individual, decide, okay, I'm a billionaire now, and now I'm going to create, 20 foundations to give the rest of my money away? That's great if they do that. But if they keep it, why should I didn't create that. What gives me or anyone in this world the authority, the power, the moral, the moral ethical argument to say, we're taking away something you earned? These are earned dollars. These are not money from the government dollars. These people, these billionaires, have created huge mountains of wealth for individuals and the government through taxation. And, these people that say billionaires don't pay taxes are fools, because they don't understand how billionaires are, what the definition of a billionaire is. Most of it's unrealized gains, it's stock holdings, it's so many different financial things, but they would never, people who hate billionaires would never take the time to understand how the financial system works. And that's why they are worried about billionaires, because they don't know how to create their own wealth like the rest of us did as individuals working to make our own family and selves wealthy through the system of capitalism and market-based programs, whatever. They are so envious and jealous that they want to take, but you could take all the money from all the billionaires and then it goes away. And then what happens? Nothing changes in your life. You got to stop focusing on it. But Ken, to your point, we're being in social media, these kids are being bombarded with envy, and it needs to stop. And if social media went away tomorrow, it wouldn't make me sad, especially in the political.
I agree. If it went away, it would be a great thing. There's an old saying. I remember reading it at Grandma's house in a Reader's Digest. I used to love Reader's Digest, and there was quotable quotes. And I read it when I was probably 8 years old, 9 years old, when we lived at her house. And it says, "Everyone is a self-made man, but only the successful admit it." And see, here's the thing. We are self-made men and women, but there's a lot of people who aren't successful, financially successful. Not everybody needs to be financially successful. That's not a measure of your worth. It's just a measure of your ability to sell your skills or to come up with an idea or program or whatever. But anyway, when people don't have those skills and they're not as successful as somebody else, it's a lot easier for many people. It's a lot easier for many people to say, look, they got there unfairly. People don't like to look in the mirror and say, well, maybe I didn't do everything I needed to do. Maybe I didn't study as hard as I should have. Maybe I didn't take care of my customer as well as I should have. Maybe I should have gone to get skills in this area. Like, people don't like to point the finger back at themselves to say, I'm where I am because of decisions I made. And so it's those types of people that are easily manipulated to say, it's not you. It's not your decisions. It's not your poor decisions. It's Elon Musk. The fact that he makes, spaceships and electric vehicles, he's taking money out of your pocket. Like, it's crazy, makes no sense, but people would rather point to somebody else for all their problems. And so and social media allows that to happen all the time. And, which is a shame. But, you mentioned earlier about the bots, about China and all this. I think there's a whole lot of truth in that too, because you look at some of these Facebook sites or the old Twitter, X now, and you see these people who are saying the most nonsensical things in the world, and they have 100,000 followers and they have 10,000 comments and 50,000 likes. I'm like, where's this coming from? And if you Google it or if you do a chat GPT, you find out that you can pay for this. But there are countries who would like nothing more than to divide Americans, and they are feeding this division into social media sites. And I think it's a big reason for why we are so divided as a country.
Absolutely, Ken. Hey, Ken, let's take on today the House panel oversight. I forget which committee had 3 Minnesota reps and a former DOJ person on the panel looking into the Minnesota fraud that's been going on since 2008. The Somalian community in Minnesota, who, according to the left, is being targeted.
Right, because we're racist.
Yes, we are racist. They're just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion, but these people have been so blatant that the Minnesota legislature has been going after them for a long time. And there have been whistleblowers who have been intimidated by the Somalian community. This Somalian community is very connected, and there is evidence that Tim Walz knew about it, and now he's saying, he didn't. They were buying votes, if we just want to boil it down to one thing. They're buying votes on our federal tax dollars, and they are stealing from the federal treasury. And there's already almost 100 people being prosecuted, but now ICE is in Minnesota, and they're starting to pull some of the illegal people that are out, although the Somalians have a protected status, which they are going to start losing, and I hope they do, because I don't understand why they even have it to begin with. But this Minnesota fraud, Ken, has been growing for a long time, and it's amazing how one video by one guy, Shirley, could spark such a backlash against all this fraud, but now a backlash against him for exposing it to the rest of the country. They're anywhere from 9 to 16 billion with a B have been taken from the American taxpayer. And can you imagine if this is happening in Minnesota, what's happening in New York, what's happening in Illinois, what's happening in California and some of these bigger states? And I would say it's happening in every state. It's just the degree to which it's happening. And I am so happy that they're shutting off funds, but I'm very suspicious that not enough of these funds are being shut off, because they keep saying, oh, we're going to stop this, we're stop that. I'm not sure that's being done completely, but it should be, until we can figure out who really needs it. And if somebody is on the dole the whole time they're here, we don't need them as a citizen. You either get off the dole and start working, or you go back to your home country, because this is not a welfare state for life. This is a place you come and you grab opportunity and move on. So what are your thoughts about all this Minnesota stuff?
I don't know. I think you said it pretty well. I think this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to fraud, this autism fraud, childcare fraud. Yet New York, California, Illinois, if Minnesota's doing it, these other locations are doing it too. And Tim Walz, for him to pretend he didn't know about it, that is an absolute joke. I can guarantee you, and actually it's been reported,
Jazz hands.
he's such a strange guy. But I can guarantee you, if you went up to Minnesota and talked to a lot of legislators up there or just people, they tell you, oh yeah, we all knew about this. It's just one of those things. Tim Walz and all the Democrats knew about it, but we don't want to say anything because they get kickbacks. All this money's coming into these daycare centers. Oh, well, let's look at who these daycare centers support for governor and who these daycare centers support for congressmen and senators, state and federal. And you'll find out that it's a circular thing. They get the money, they funnel it to the Democrats, and the Democrats just turn a blind eye to it. I can guarantee you that that's happening. All I know is that this guy was going to places during the work week, and he's going into buildings that have no cars outside, and there's no kids inside, but these places, because they posted on the Minnesota government website how much these places are getting paid, and there's nobody there. And so it's just another one of those democratic things. Don't believe what your eyes are telling you.
And no, Ken, and two things. Before Trump was elected, we talked about NGOs, and we said it right here. You can go back prior to Trump's election that NGOs are simply a money laundering operation.
Yep.
That has all come out as true. NGOs are money laundering operations. But there was an interview of a woman who runs a autism center or I forget what exact business it was, but she is livid because she has been audited. She's had to open her books. And in Minnesota, and she's had to prove a number of times the funding she's receiving is going to the right place. And she looks at it and she's like, if they were doing what they were doing to me, they would have found this, they would have shut these things down a long time ago. So to your point,
let me ask you a question. What color is this woman?
I don't know, to be honest.
She's a white. She is. I've seen that. She's a white woman, and I bet she probably votes for Republicans.
Yeah.
Interrupt you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It just proves that it is all political. It has nothing to do with the children. It has nothing to do with the program. It's the money goes here, and then it comes back here. That's the people that don't get audited. The money that goes from here to here and never comes back, that gets audited, because where's our campaign contributions? These people don't support us. They must be supporting the enemy. So we got to find out, are they giving their money to someone else? So it's so obvious. It'll be interesting to see. I think Walz needs to be indicted on this. I don't know how it'll all work, but these people need to go to a lot of high-level political people need to go to jail because they have allowed fraud to happen. They have stolen taxpayer dollars. They have, deceived the federal government. And I'm sure there are tax issues as well that are involved here that can easily be utilized to go after these people. But again, I don't have a lot of hope in the Republicans. They play the gentleman game when the Democrats are assassinating them left and right. It's like, it's just nonstop being a gentleman. And it's like, it's time to take off the gloves, guys. You got to play the way they play. they play to eliminate you, and I'm saying that at the at the voting booth. They eliminate you, and you try to, maybe it wasn't so bad. Oh, maybe we shouldn't go after him. How's that going to look? You know what? Take the heat. Be like the president. Get involved and do the right thing. And you got to shut this down all across the country, because you know what? We may balance our budget just from the fraud if we can stop all the fraud, Ken.
Yeah, Rich, fraud has been going on probably forever in every society. Yeah, to a certain extent. But it's almost as if since the Obama administration, fraud has just gotten a steroid boost. The NGOs that you're talking about, and we found out through Doge about all this money that we're sending all over the world. Yes, for some good reasons. But there's also a lot of wasted money going to organizations like a Stacey Abrams. She was given like a few $2 billion.
$2 million, and she was the only employee.
Yeah, well, but her organization got a lot more than that. But it's like, hey, we got all this money. Hey, Stacey, I need you to open up a company, and we'll give you the money, and then you'll just distribute it however you see fit, and you can take, a cut for yourself. And that was just like happening left and right. We found it out with Doge, with the COVID money, and then after the Great Recession, when Obama took, and we're giving money left and right to people. I mean, just money's flying around left and right, and just fraud just became astronomical. And so we need to clean this up. It's not going to be easy, but I think Trump has a better chance of doing it than anybody else, because we are talking billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I'm going to go up after the podcast and see what came out of the meetings, but it's typical, bureaucratic meetings. They sound, they bluster, they fundraise, and they do all their dances that they do, and hardly anything changes.
But that's not true. With all of Trump's problems, and we've talked about him a lot, Trump he's obnoxious sometimes, and he says some of the dumbest things, but he's not one of those people. He's not one of those people who talks a good game and then doesn't do anything about it. I mean, he's a doer. And so if anybody's going to be able to do it, he will be able to do it. It's just a question of, does he have the right people where he can assign it to, and they'll get it done. And I think he has a lot of good people in his cabinet, a lot of good people just below the cabinet level. So he's not a talker, he's a doer. And that's one of the reasons I like Trump so much.
Yeah. And that's what the left doesn't get about why people support him. I was watching, and we can, we'll end it after this, Ken, but just, a couple of light notes on Trump's personality. We know, me and you, know why the left hates him. It's easy to watch a speech and watch him go to the left, to the right, bring back the old, it's almost like the campaign loop, I was the one who did this, and I was the, like the country was falling apart.
We're hot, Rich. We are hot. We're hot.
Yeah, we're hot. We're winning. Only I could do. People are saying that I'm great. That's what people are saying. And, who am I to argue with the people that are saying I'm great?
Yeah.
Like, nobody has ever done this before. Nobody has ever found this kind of fraud in Minnesota before. Only people are telling me that I'm the one, I don't, is it true? Maybe, but I'm great. He does this stuff, and I laugh because I'm like, oh my God, a left person with TDS just jumped off the bridge. So he knows his flaws, but he also knows that they drive people crazy. So he continues to do it. And, next week we'll see. We'll talk about it. He's talking about Greenland again, and he's got the left hand on fire. And I think he knows, like, I'm going to run Venezuela. I'm going to take over Greenland. He drives them crazy with that language.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, he just does it to get everybody worked up and talking about the subject. And then all of a sudden he'll go in and negotiate something separate. Because the people of Greenland, I didn't realize this, there's only 30 to 50,000.
Oh, there's very few people there. Yeah.
And have you seen the size of Greenland? Greenland's massive, and it is a protector. It's right off the coast of Canada. It's the way to get Russia goes by there. There's a lot of stuff going on in Greenland. And, somebody was saying, one of his folks said, we could give everybody there $1 million. It would only cost us $50 million to, it would be worth paying all those people off, and they'll go, we'll be a United States. Heck with Denmark. If they're going to give us all this money, we'll just give every family $1 million, leave them alone. And, they don't care what happens in the rest of the country because they all live like right on the coast there.
Yep. Yep.
And so, but the left is like, they get so crazy when he talks about it. Apoplectic, you got it. But, and he gets us like that too, but we're smart enough to know that it's part of a different strategy. And if he were to do things that we disagree with, we're going to call him out on it. And, it's just one of those things that you have to separate yourself from the personality and the policy.
Yes.
Because the personality will drive all of us crazy, but the policy is making America great. So you gotta, and too often the left just can't separate out that personality part. They just use his words to say he's a dictator, and meanwhile he never ever goes against a court order. He always goes right into court and fights it. He doesn't go beyond it. He doesn't just dismiss it like a dictator would. He actually goes by the process. He's got people for that.
Yeah, absolutely. When he's talking about Venezuela and he's like, oh, I'm running Venezuela, and they stop a tanker and he's like, I'm going to get the money. I look at that. I'm like, what he means by that is
you got to translate.
Yeah, you do have to translate. And he's not a good diplomat. He says whatever he's thinking, but what comes out of his mouth many times is not what he really means. But, when it comes to Greenland, I'm sure that he got briefed when he came into office. And it's like, Greenland, we have China and we have Russia up there, and they're getting around there. He's like, well, I'm going to get in front of this and I'm going to throw it out there. Hey, we want Greenland. And now if China or Russia start messing around Greenland, he's like, whoa, that's ours, and so he's just getting in front of it.
Absolutely.
And he's controlling the narrative. So we'll see what happens with Greenland, but that is all about Russia, all about China, all about protecting the United States and getting
Canada.
And of course, and Canada, and and Western countries in general. Yeah. But yeah, he is a character. When there's times where I'm just like, oh, don't say it that way.
Yeah. All he had to say was, "We are going to manage the transition."
That's right. Yeah, you're not running the country. Exactly. You're going to allow them to run it, but you're going to have a lot of people from the State Department or maybe the Department of War, and they're going to be talking.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's totally different. And no, you're not getting the money. It's not going into your pocket, but it's going to go into the Treasury, and this is going to be considered a windfall. And so the United States is going to be able to use this money, but it's not yours. And I know that's not what you mean.
Yeah.
But I don't think he cares. He's like, I don't care what these people think.
No,
I'm going to do what
they're going to criticize him no matter what.
That's right.
I think his thing is, let me get him on fire, have some fun watching what they say about me. And they'll be doing that over there, and I'm going on to my next thing, you know?
Yes.
So, and, you know, it's a different world out there. Politics is a lot different than it used to be. The old statesman's argument. Give me the Trump policy over a statesman anytime. I get it. I love that Rubio's out in front more often. I think Rubio is a brilliant speaker. He's like J.D. Vance. They both know how to speak, but Rubio has got such a handle on South America, Central America, the Americas in general. He's a great Secretary of State, absolutely fabulous. And he's been following it. He is where he's supposed to be, because he is a brilliant, brilliant analyst of that part of the world. And when he speaks, I love it. He's a statesman. When I look at 28, I'm looking at Rubio, I'm looking at Vance, I'm looking at DeSantis. I mean, these guys are really, really excellent potential presidents. I mean, we have some of the best. He has some of the best in the cabinet, and I love Besson as well, but he's not gonna.
No, he's not presidential.
He's a great treasurer.
Yeah.
Businessman. But man, Rubio, DeSantis, those are really, really strong candidates. Kristi Noem, even though she shoots dogs, I still like Kristi. She's, who I don't want to see and who keeps popping up on social media every once in a while is Kristi, what's her name, from South Carolina, that went anti-Trump.
What's her name? South Carolina. Gosh, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah, I've seen her a couple of times chiming in, and her son was just on for something like Young Republicans or whatever. Kristi Whitman?
No, not Kristi Whitman. It'll come to me, but
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley, yeah.
Yeah, hey, Nikki Haley.
But
she makes my skin crawl. I do not like her. She is a rhino, as she makes. She
lost it when she went rhino during the last campaign. Yep. But let me just say, like when Trump was giving the press conference and talking about Venezuela, and he's talking and he's just saying some crazy stuff, and then he said, "Oh, I'll let Marco Rubio say a few words." I'm like, "Yes, thank you." And Marco is just like, boom, boom, boom. This is why we're doing it. And this is why, blah, blah. And I'm like, please don't leave. Please don't just stay up there. And I saw Marco Rubio was on CBS with this Margaret Brennan. Margaret Brennan is like, boy, oh boy, does she have RBF, where she just looking angry. And he is just so articulate. But I also like it, like his gut gets into it a little bit, and you see a little passion there. But
absolutely,
he's awesome. But if you compare like Marco and Jade and, a couple other people that you mentioned, and you can't compare him to the number one Democrat at this point, who is Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is just like a slimy used car salesman.
You can feel the oil coming out off of him.
That guy would say anything to anyone for any reason, and he has to get votes. But the Republicans definitely have a very deep bench. The Democrats, any regular, normal, sensible Democrat has left the party a long time ago, and they have nobody. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are like, those are the best they had last time. There's not many better than them, and that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Ken. And let's end it here. We've gone a full hour and a half, and we appreciate you for listening to Hands on Politics. We're a couple of brothers. We're here just trying to help make politics understandable. We will not apologize for loving our Constitution and our country. And we cringe at President Trump too. but we are policy over personality.
That's right.
So you gotta get rid of that TBS, and you gotta get in and start thinking about what's behind the curtain for the great, wonderful Oz. But I want to thank everybody for listening to this edition of Hands on Politics. Ken, it's been great, and I'm looking forward to next week. I am sure we'll have plenty to talk about next week.
Absolutely. Great talking to you, Rich.
Great talking to you. Thanks, everyone.